In the last video, we saw how to set up a basic C++ program, a hello world program, which we can then use to create our own C++ programs. So that'll work. If, however, you want to do something slightly different, that is, have multiple programs in one source folder, so on, you have to do things a little bit differently. So here I'm going to try to show you how to do some of that. So the first thing you want to do is create a new project, C++ project, and you want to choose a makefile project. Use the Mac OS X GCC toolchain and then call it whatever. I can't call it hello because I already have a project by that name. I'll call it hello 2. Okay, so it chose, in my case, I chose the Mac OS X GCC. If you're using Linux, use the Linux GCC. If you're using Windows, you'll see the MinGW or whatever other toolchain you use on Windows. Okay, so note in this case, I don't see a source folder setting, and that's not good, but let's just plow ahead. This will create a makefile project. So what is a makefile? A makefile tells the system what to compile and what to call it and so on. Okay, and we saw this the last time. It's supposed to create a C++ program. Actually, what it does is create a C program, but since C++ includes all of C, this is also a valid C++ program. So it's not that it's invalid, but it's just that this is old style C, and we could be doing things different. We could be using actual features of C++, like including IOStream instead of standard IO.h, and we could be using cout. It doesn't matter what goes in this string. Okay, and notice we get an error message saying it doesn't know what ENDL is or cout. That's because we're missing this using statement. Using the standard namespace. Using namespace std, and okay, let's save this. Still get this. Okay, it's gone. So the error messages stuck around for a little bit, and eventually they did go away. So if they didn't go away, it's still not a problem. You can always hit the compile. So remember, I saved it, but unlike Java, I don't compile it. When you use Java under Eclipse, every time you save, your Java programs are all compiled, and you don't see that happening. In C++, things are a little different, and you have to actually compile. Each time you make a change, you have to build. So I'm going to do that. Let me see if I got everything working. Oh, almost missed a semicolon. Need that. Okay. Now everything seems to have worked. If you got error messages here, and you hit build, the build icon, and you still got error messages, like for example for this line, then you probably need to do some configuration changes on your system. So whether it's Linux, Mac OS X, or Windows, you get error messages at this point, and it's not because you forgot a semicolon. Then you probably have some configuration changes to make. On the Linux DVD, it should work perfectly. I don't think there should be any problem. Mac OS X, you do have to download Xcode, which also downloads the C compiler and so on. So once you do Xcode, you should be all set. That's what I'm using as a Mac OS X machine. On Windows, you need MinGW, which is minimal GNU install for compiling programs. You also need things like make, and so it's a little bit involved to set up Windows to do this kind of work. Okay, so let's run this. The first time you run it, it'll ask you what debugger do you want to use, because we set up, by default, we set up a debug version, not a release version. And so we use the GDB debugger, and it prints out whatever string you have here, it prints it out. So if you get to this point, you're in good shape. Now, what I want to do is I want to set up my own makefile. So this is all optional. You don't have to do this. And I'm not even sure I can get this to work every time. So what I do is I'm going to right click, and you can't see this, but I'm going to choose properties. Okay. And once you open up the properties tab, you want to go to C++ build, you want to go to builder settings, and if you had generate makefile automatically clicked, you should unclick it. And once you do that, you want to choose your main project directory as the build directory. Okay? So this all depends on your settings. You might want to make a few changes. These I do not believe you have to change, but you can see my settings. Okay, but these are the important ones. Makefile generation should not be automatic. The place should probably be the project directory itself. And then you apply, and okay, in my case I don't have to make any changes. Okay, so now what can you do with this? Now what you can do is you can customize how you create your executables and what kind of source code you use. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, instead of using object code, I'm going to just create source. I'm going to say this is going to be not in my current folder but in src, and I have to create that. Okay. Oops. Hello to. And now I'm going to say, instead of objects, I'm going to say that I'm going to use sources. So what this is really saying, this line is saying that, is that this hello to target will depend on the C++ file. So what it's saying, that if I make changes in here, then I have to create a new executable. Okay, and the way I do that is I use this compiler, which is usually set to G++, and create this output. And we saw this kind of thing in the first video when we did everything on the command line. This is just using variables in this file to indicate what needs to be done. Okay, so what I'm going to do also is I'm going to say this is going into another folder, the debug folder. So you can make all these custom changes and hopefully everything works. Okay. So I changed this, I changed this, I changed this, and now I have to make sure that the source folder is there. So let me save this. You should be able to save it. If you can save it, that means your makefile changes will actually be used. If you cannot save your makefile, it's probably because the system is using an automatically generated makefile, and so all changes you make may get ignored. Okay, so now I'm going to make the directories I need. New folder called debug. Okay, that will be where my executable will go. And to check all of that, I want to delete my current executable. delete this object code because I probably don't need that. You can create it if you want to. And then also I'm going to make a new source folder called src finish move this, oops, move this into there, and I'm pretty much set for making stuff. Okay, so once you get to this point, you should be able to hit build, and oops, I used the wrong slash, so I ended up creating it in the wrong place, but we can fix that, no problem. I used the forward slash. No, I used the backward slash. I need to use the forward slash. Sorry about that. Save it. Compile it, and now, if you noticed, there is executable there. That's what I wanted. And then I delete this old one. I don't need that. It was a mistake. Okay, and I think I'm up and running. So this is the way to customize, to really customize your environment. That is, you edit your own makefile. If you're not comfortable doing this, no problem. Just use the old way of setting up projects. That is, using the wizard to set up a default Hello World project. Take out the insides of main, put in whatever you want, and you're off and running. No problem. Okay. So in this case, I have customized everything, and I can put in more customization later. Okay, so I hope you get some idea of how to modify what C++, or the C++ IDE inside Eclipse gives you. Always, you can always explore by looking around in the properties of a project, and you can hunt around. You can modify a lot of things. So there's a bunch of things here. Run debug settings, builders, and every system will be slightly different. But these are the main things. You want to make sure that you can this should be C++. That's often a source of problems. I'm going to use C++. I'm just very quickly looking for things that I can maybe point out. I don't see anything that you really need to look at this point. So it's mainly C++ build. Take a look around and just explore the system, and you can make all kinds of changes. I've only looked at a few very tiny changes.